Welcome, viewers. This is a special edition of Field of Dreams. My name is Steve David. I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about a guy who is special to me and special to a lot of us in Trinidad and Tobago. And his name is Basil Matthews. And Dum has done so much with so little for so many that we cannot give him enough praise. And today I got two gentlemen, special gentlemen, who has been with Dum for a while and knows a lot about him to take us through his life. With me to my right is Reginald Renrick, better known as Reggie. We call him Reggie. Welcome, Reggie.
Well, thank you very much, Steve.
You want to tell the viewers a little bit about who Reggie is?
First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me, and it is indeed an honor and privilege to be here. And I also wish to say thanks, Basil, because without him, none of this would have been possible. It is right to give thanks and praise. My name is Reginald Rennick, better known as Reggie. I live currently in Washington, D.C., and I'm a past alumnus of St. Benedict's College from Marbella and Vista Bella, and I was one of the first students there to complete a full education at St. Benedict's College and to have gone back to St. Benedict's College to teach. I migrated to the States in 1969, but my navel string is buried in Washington, D.C. No, my navel string is buried in Trinidad, in La Rome.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we also have Adrian Chandler, and Adrian is old St. Benedict's boy. He's the one who caused the stand to break down in Skinner Park during that intercol game. Adrian, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, Steve. I lived in Laramie, and I also attended St. Benedict's College, of course. As a former secretary of the Past Students Association, I would have made my contribution in that area as well. And I am always happy to share my memories of Dom Basil Matthews.
All right, we welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you. Guys, we're going to make this really a barbershop discussion. We're going to jump in, we're going to talk with each other, just let one person talk at a time. And so we don't have to ask questions because we know everything that we need to know about Dom Basil Matthews.
Surely.
And I don't know as much as you guys, so I'm going to learn a lot today. And my viewers, you guys in for a treat today. And pull up a chair, get a drink, sit back, and let it roll. Okay, let's go to work. Who is Dom Basil Matthews?
You want to start, Reggie?
Oh, well, Dom Basil Matthews was a giant, and you would wonder why the name Dom. His birth name was Steve Matthews, but when he went as a young monk to St. Benedict's College, to St. Benedict's in Mount St. Benedict's, you had to adopt a priestly name, a saint name. So that's why his name was changed from Stephen to Basil. And Dom means Dominus in the Benedictine order, but the short name is Dom. But surprisingly, even though there are so many Doms in Trinidad and Tobago and all over the world, in Trinidad there is only one Dom, Dom Basil Matthews. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder why. Perhaps it's God's vision and God's blessings that we were graced with the Dom.
Right.
Anywhere I go to, it's the Dom. Nobody else but the Dom.
Right.
In America, people say Dr. Basil Matthews. He never worried about doctor. He has a PhD, OSB, MA, PhD. It didn't mean anything to him. He was simply Dom Basil Matthews. A very humble person in all aspects. Giving, caring, loving, doing for people. Not looking for rewards.
Giving, that's what he did, man. He gave a lot to everybody.
Without looking for returns.
Exactly. Well, that's how we're supposed to
And this
give.
is life itself, isn't it?
That's life.
Yes, my early interaction or observation with Dom Basil Matthews came as a resident of Bamboo Village, Laramie. My father would have been one of the activists in the community, and he interacted with Dom Basil Matthews. Dom Basil virtually met all the residents, from Duncan Village to Laramie. And he did that on foot. At that time he was at the Rambert Village
Lambert.
area where he was posted, and he would come and meet the residents from time to time and giving them, his feel on what he sees for the community and so on. So that it was not strange to see him walking from house to house and talking with people and letting them know, what his thoughts were and so on. And, that was my early interaction of the man.
Yes.
And, he never segregated, here, and it was so unusual to see this priest in this long white gown, walking from house to house. But that was my memory of early Don Basil Matthews, and he would bring the community together through, activities that he had in mind, and also he also sought the support of the people in the community as well. I remember him bringing the community through his involvement, ideas of raising funds for this new school. One of the ideas he had, was like a bazaar. So they will have bazaar from time to time.
Okay.
But he will come to the community and sought their support and assistance from people within the community. And that was the person. He was a very humble person, and that was my early interaction with the man himself, because he came to our home on a couple of occasions and so on. Yeah.
Let's take me through the life of Don Basil Matthews. He started off, I'm sure he was born here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, Samoa.
Okay, and then what? Take me through that.
At an early age, he went to Samoa RFC, and there was some brilliance. And of course, as a good Catholic, all roads went to St. Mary's College, not QRFC. Parents were headmasters and headmistresses.
Those were like the only two big colleges.
The only two big colleges.
Only-
Fatima
only-
wasn't in existence.
Yeah.
Right.
Presentation in the South Nampurima, but he went to St. Mary's College. And he did well. He sang in the choir. And having left St. Mary's, he tried to get into the Holy Ghost Fathers. But for some reason or other, and I don't know why, if it's a question of race or color, he was not admitted to St. Mary, the Holy Ghost Fathers, who actually ran St. Mary's College,
Right.
and later Fatima.
Right.
So he decided to go to Monks and Benedict because it was just being started. And he went there and, in 1929. And by 1935, he was finished with his theological studies and became a monk. And again, brilliance again. He got a scholarship and he went to Belgium, to Louvain University.
Okay.
All right. Came back to Trinidad, got another scholarship and went to America at Fordham University, did his master's in sociology, and then he did his PhD in sociology. Finished that up. And as a matter of fact, his thesis was the crisis of the West Indian family, which was used in training colleges and universities here and abroad as a prime piece of work on what was happening in terms of the life and the sociological structure of people within the Caribbean element. And the book is still today, and it's still a masterpiece. And I have a copy, and I would like to have everyone in Trinidad and Tobago read that book. But he came back to Trinidad, and as a monk, he had to be under monk, because monks remain under monks. And then, of course, came more prominence. We had another brilliant scholar, Dr. Eric
Williams.
Eustace Williams. Do you know him?
Definitely.
Oh, yes.
He was
All
the
right.
second one. Yeah.
So could you imagine two scholars? Eric Williams was at Oxford, and then he came to America and taught at Howard University, while Dom was at Fordham. And these guys used to exchange notes, Dom in New York and Eric in Washington. And so they came to Trinidad. And there was this debate, big debate, on Aristotle and human life and human existence. And as a matter of fact, the debates used to take place at the Royal Victoria Institute, and it was chaired by President Sir Ellis Clark. So could you imagine the whole of Trinidad to see these two stalwarts at such a debate? I mean, this was history.
Right.
And there's a joke about who won the debate, whether it was the Dom or the Duck, because Eric Williams was referred to as the Duck,
Right.
and Dom was referred to as the Dom. And the answer was that Trinidad won. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah.
Trinidad won. There were no losers. It was a win-win situation for Trinidad and Tobago,
Right.
pre-independence. And of course, there are other things in his life. I mean, he was born in 1911,
Okay.
Same here with Eric
Yeah.
Williams.
right? Same Eric Williams, right?
Yeah.
He passed on May the 7th, 1999. And he was buried in San Juan in his parents' grave.
That was in 1996?
No,
99?
1999. Exactly, May the 20th, 1999.
Okay, yeah.
So there are a lot of things in terms of when he studied and what he did, and even when he came back. Of course, St. Benedict's College, the building and the structuring and the planning, even though it opened in 1956, the planning took place 3 and 4 years before that. You know, this is what you were talking about.
Yeah, you know, he used to be, as I said, he was in the community and so on. And he would meet the people and let them know of his thoughts, his ideas and so on. And I remember him bringing, you know, some of the clubs and the individuals, like there was an organization, sporting organization by the name of Haven Knights. These fellows seized the opportunity, you know, given by the DOM to make their contribution as well. And the Lucky family played a crucial or a very critical role in the development of St. Benedict's College as well. They owned quite a bit of the lands in Laramie at the time.
Exactly.
And Don Basil Matthews, you know, would have gone to them and let them know of some of his ideas. And they allowed him at first to use the house in Laramie to start the school and so on. And the principal of the Rambert RC, Mr. Clan Walters, incidentally, is still alive, Reggie, you know. And also the principal of the Laramie RC, Mr. Julian, you know. But Julian was before Mr. Hunt. These were some of the people who, you know, who supported and helped, you know. And I know, as I said, the DOM coming to our home because my father used to be in the community, bringing people together so on for other purposes, you know. And the DOM would have come to our home, and I would hear him very early talking about, you know, what he sees for the community and so on. And he was always a person, you know, who was prepared to listen and prepared to give people an opportunity to make some kind of contribution. And those are the attributes I remember about the man, you know. Very humble, you know, and I said he never left out any home. I remember Reggie. You remember Aaron Samaru? Aaron Samaru, incidentally, one of the guys who wanted to play football for the school and also played cricket, you know. And I remember the DOM talking with him and encouraging him very early in life. And that guy went on to play for Trinidad, cricket for Trinidad, you know. And I'm sure the DOM would have made a meaningful contribution to that. So that was kind of my early interaction with the man, you know. So
let's talk about that, because Don left here and went away to study on scholarship with Dr. Eric Williams, and they both came back around the same time, and then they broke off into different directions. And Dom thought he can do something for the community of Laramie or South or Trinidad for that matter. So let's pick it up there. So when Dom came back from Fordham University, he came into Laramie. And like you said, he walked around the community and did that. And what was his thoughts and what was his mind? What did he plan? What was his plans for the community?
Well, Steve, from what he told me, I was privileged. He lived with me in Washington in his older years. Dom had a vision. And sometimes he would say, Reg, maybe it's God. And he had a vision because he saw the need for education in the rural South. And building St. Benedict's College was a one-man show. It was not sponsored or built by any order. You know what I mean? Like presentation as a presentation order. St. Joseph's Convent, the St. Joseph of Cluny. You know, Naparima, the Canadian Mission. This was his baby. This was his project. And how he did it? Went around. He begged, he borrowed, and you know, the charisma that he had. But he did it for the purpose of educating the poor, the underprivileged, the impoverished, because without that, secondary education was not free. You know, in those days was the exhibition. And if you did not have money to go to an established school,
that's it.
Crapo smoke your pipe in Trinidad talk.
Right.
Got it? So he saw the need. and to provide a full service education. It was the first comprehensive school in the entire Trinidad and Tobago. And look at it. Look at who he has produced. All right? We have produced 4 senators.
3 mayors.
All right? 3 mayors. Clyde Paul, who is currently mayor of Paul. Ian Artley. And we have also produced another mayor who was here in San Fernando after Ian. All right?
His name slips me now.
The 4 senators, Junior Kamijong, the late Junior Kamijong, the late Sastry Moonan, Dr. Sastry Moonan, Sahadev Basil, who became first, he was a senator, and also became...
to Canada as well.
He's now in Canada. He was a full professor at UWI. And he was also, in terms of our external affairs minister. And Neil Baggan. All right? We have produced so many people because of one man, Dom Basil Matthews, and credit must be given to him. And building from St. Benedict's College in 1956, opening those doors in 1956, created a whole opportunity for so many of us, from Point, San Fernando, La Brea, Forest, Rosilac, Faizabad, Princeton.
The Lucky family,
the whole Lucky family
would have made a meaningful contribution.
Well, we say thanks to the Lucky family
also.
Yes,
because the Lucky family would have owned probably half the lands in Laramie.
The buildings, right.
Had the lands in Laramie, you know, and they would have given him the lands to build the college and so on. And Reggie is so right when you spoke about him doing it alone. You know, all the funds that would have been generated, he would have journeyed, you know, throughout the South, especially in the oil companies as well, you know, generating or asking for their support. And I think he got so much support, you know, as he went along. And I think, and this is people to the day, you know, just going across the football for a short while, you know, wanted to know why this kind of support and how this support came about with St. Benedict's College whenever I went to play football, you know. And I think this is where that seed was sown many years ago by Dom himself, you know, and I think that was part of their way of just giving back to, you know, they say, well, yeah, you know, this is the kind of way we think we should show our support for the Dom itself, you know. But, you know, today, it's most interesting, you know, that while we sit here, we celebrate the 60th anniversary of St. Benedict's College today, and perhaps it's the most opportune time for us to sit and discuss, you know, and talk about this great man, you know. And I am sure Reggie would have had some more and deeper memories of him, because Reggie was a student before us, you know, at the school. So Reggie would have had some of the early thoughts of the man himself, you know, and so that
well, where did he get the help from? From Petrotrin, Shell at that time?
He got some Shell,
he
got from Texaco,
yes.
And even one point, people made a joke about it, he got from Lock Joint. Lock Joint was the company, a U.S. company, which was hired to do the digging and the trenching to make sewage systems in Trinidad and Tobago. So even from Lock Joint, Halliburton and Tucker, American firms, Slumberger, Schlumberger. All right? So he got help from so many people, even in terms of he and Sam Ghani and you know, some families helped them, like the Calendar family, who owned the warehouse in San Fernando, the Kunau family. People gave of themselves. People gave of themselves. The Moonan family,
you know.
All right? The Moonan family.
Okay. When we come back,
Surely.
we will dig into the resources. Where did he get his resources from, and who gave him the most help and everything?
Sure.
And we'll be right back.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. This is Axe Television Network. My name is Steve David, of course, and we're talking about the old great Basil Matthews, who we all owe so much to. He have given so much of his life for the development of Trinidad and Tobago, and we need to give him back something, I think. Before the break, we were talking about the resources, where he got the money or well, we know where he got the vision, but where he got the money and the help to build St. Benedict's College. Reggie, let's pick up from there.
Well, you know, priest takes a vow of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he had no money.
Right.
Besides obedience and chastity, he has to take the vow. A monk takes the vow of poverty.
Right.
So Dam here was Dam. Whatever he worked for, he got nothing. However, when I talk to Dam about in terms of funding, he says, Reg, I borrowed, I begged, I borrowed. And those who I couldn't pay back, I begged them and they gave to me. So it was not only in terms of begging, but giving. People actually gave. And he was astute enough. Again, he was American-based. He had some marketing skills.
Mm-hmm.
And he marketed himself to the major corporates, you know, that took place in the south of Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, in terms of material, look at St. Benedict's College in those days, 1956. That was the most massive structure in the whole of Laramie.
Of Laramie, yes.
In the whole, in terms of
Yes,
South,
yes.
in terms of a school. Nobody ever saw a building like that before.
Right.
Okay? So in terms of his actually, the bazaars, the funding, people giving, the pledges people made, that was very important. And people, you know, where you see where your money is going, it makes a big difference.
It does.
So as the building moved up, people continued to give. He continued to beg. He continued to ask with dignity. All right? And as God provided, corporations helped him. All right? And people helped him also. The church did what it can to give him some assistance. Now, surprisingly, Count Fimbarayan was the archbishop in those days. And Count Fimbarayan had some likeness for Dom Basil.
He supported him.
And he supported him wholeheartedly. So he encouraged parishioners and people to give to this project. This was a monumental task, all alone with his vision. And I must add, at this point in time, people saw where it was going. And as a monk who took the vow of poverty, people saw, well, hey, this is an excellent idea. Let us continue to assist. And this is how it started. It took 4 years to build and plan until that opened September the 2nd, September 16, 1956,
yeah.
when it was opened.
That's St. Benedict's College.
St. Benedict's College. So in essence, you know, where was money coming from? Money came from all sources. And of course, the cost of labor, that's another thing. So you may have materials, but in terms of labor, people actually gave free labor.
This was one of the ways Mutilan Monian made his contribution.
Contribution also.
As a new contractor at that time, you know, he had equipment, and he gave his equipment as part of his contribution to develop the lands around and so on, you know. So that is another one of the ways people contributed for it, you know, and it was the whole idea and the whole momentum behind St. Benedict's College was a whole community effort as well, you know, and it was amazing to see the kind of effort people from within the community put on. As Reggie was talking about, the companies who might have contributed, the individuals as well, you know, and it was just, you know, amazing, instrumental, you know, and it was a most memorable, you know, project, the St. Benedict's College coming to fusion, you know, and today all of us are so proud of being part of that, you know, and so on. But as I said, Reggie would have been one of those people who would have had some early interaction with him. I remember Reggie representing them on a number of occasions at events and so on. And he would have done that because of some of the knowledge he would have had from the Dom himself, about the way forward with this new school.
So the school started in 1956.
That's September.
We started with a full 5 forms, or we started with a
we
form
started
1?
with about 200,
Form 1 to
200
Form
people.
3.
So we started with Form
Right.
1 to 3.
Form 1 to 3. And one of the things is that people were surprised. One of the form was called freshman. In America, when you go to high school for the first time, you're called a freshman. The term a freshman, was something new to Trinidad and Tobago. And where did we get our students from? Students came from all over. Students transferred from Presentation, from Naparima, from the old Ken Lee's College, the old Aquinas High School and what have you, plus out of primary schools that kids come. And Dom said to himself, this is my school, I build a school, give people a chance. There was no turning back, all right? So he welcomed everybody.
Everybody.
And mind you, he welcomed everybody. School fees those days were $16. You had to live. You had to pay teachers. But again, God helped this man. Dr. Patrick Solomon, his classmate, was Minister of Education. All right? In that first 1956 elections that Eric Williams became Premier. Not Prime Minister, but Premier. And of course, within 1 year, St. Benet's College became government assisted, meaning government paid teachers and supported. Well, that was a big opening. We encouraged more teachers to come because they knew where their bread and butter was coming from. All right? They knew where their pension was coming from. And of course, it opened up the school greater things to be achieved in those days. So significantly, as I said, a year afterwards, it got government status assisted. The schools got it, of course, with Naparima, Presentation, Fatima, St. Mary's. QRC was, of course, government owned. And that was the only government-owned school. So going back to St. Ben's College, getting that government-assisted status, it means he was able to attract quality teachers.
Right.
And so people had an opportunity to say, hey, this is no fly-by-night school. This is something of status. And
one unique idea he introduced, Reggie, and he brought a number of teachers from England as well.
Oh, right. That's another thing.
And these were high-quality teachers,
Right.
and they came as part of the staff. That in itself, I think gave a whole fillip and a lift to the school, with these teachers who came from England. And again, the idea of them, again, another innovation, was the array of subjects that were taught at the school included a number of commercial subjects as well. And people at the time, some education, of the view that why teach these subjects to boys, so mainly, but his idea was a rounded student, and it was interesting that 30 years afterwards, that was when those subjects were introduced to the schools in general.
Those subjects are like what, typing and that
yes,
kind of stuff you're talking about?
Yes.
Like technical school stuff, right?
Commerce, shorthand,
typing,
bookkeeping,
banking, agriculture, music.
Music.
And
Okay.
let me piggyback on this. In 1969, those 12 teachers came.
Yeah.
White people came to St. Benet's College. All of them had degrees, all right? And they came to work at St. Benet's College. But interesting enough, within 1 year, only 3 remained. Need I say more? Why? Some of them never accepted the fact that they came to Trinidad to work for a black man. Got it? So you see what's going on there.
And
And they went to other schools.
Yeah.
They went to St. Peter's in Pointe-à-Pierre.
Okay. So
You
it
got
couldn't
it?
be the money
It
thing.
couldn't be the
No,
money
no,
thing.
no. Yeah, okay.
Some of them went to St. Stephen's and worked for Father Sobey, who was the principal of St. Stephen's, an Englishman. And some of them went to St. Peter's College.
Well, slavery was still, it still existed in those times.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. You understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
So, the introduction of the students in the school, and that's how I became a musician. Major Rupert Dennison actually came to the band after Professor Buckley left because of the same foolishness. But again, bringing these teachers, only 3 of them stayed until 1962 when I wrote HC, Higher School Certificate, and I benefited tremendously from them. The subjects in itself, Adrian, when I went away and the professor said, well, I want your term paper done, and it had to be typewritten.
Yeah.
Well, boy, poor me. I can't type. I didn't see the value of it because when these
Yes.
games came, I was already in Form 6.
Right.
In terms of the short end, in terms of the commerce, in terms of the banking, in terms of the industrial arts.
But,
All right?
yeah,
All these things
all
we
these,
had.
yes, you know.
But look at the secondary schools today, the composite schools.
Now they're doing it.
Now
Oh,
they're
yeah,
doing it
yes.
because Dom said, look, he is training us, the whole total person, mind, body, and soul. And he's training us to exist in society. You know, tailoring is offered in some of these schools.
Songs like Dumb Vision was like Martin Luther
Oh,
King,
yeah.
like Bob Marley in the music,
Right.
like, you know,
Again, he
know,
was
way ahead of
American.
his time.
He was American and he much further in his time.
You know,
He was
as we talk about the education and the early education, Reggie, there were some teachers too, in addition to the people who came from England. There were some local teachers too, you know, at the school at the time who committed themselves
Oh,
to the development of the boy.
definitely.
And I remember Beulah Dean,
Right.
as we talk about, you know, she was one of the person. She not only was one of the better teachers, but she would also inspire and talk with the boys, and you know, and from time to time. And David Travelay, you know, when you remember these people, they would have seen the Dom's vision, you know, up front and working together with him. And those are the people, Reggie, I remember, who would have made a major contribution.
Mr. Hugh Beckford.
Yes. you
Mr.
know.
Rhodes, Clifford Rhodes' father,
Yeah.
Felix Rhodes' dad, retired. Mr. T.V. Mitchell, retired, came back to work. Mr. Henry King, former principal of Coffee Street, DC.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Joseph Mangatal, Mr. Collie Lawrence, former principal of Sawa RC. All right? All these
number of
people
people,
came
yes, who
back
would
to
have
work
come-
at the head
yes.
because of dedication. All right? Because remember, how many teachers had degrees in those days? Dedication to work. And so it all looks back in terms of when I look back, and you see how all things fitted it and tied in. It was to the service of God, to the service of humanity. And this poor young man, a brilliant man, spearheaded this. And maybe God gave him the vision. He was a planner, he was a promoter, he was a manager, he was everything. And in one of my speeches, I refer to him as my Renaissance man. Very, very significant to me.
But I think, Reggie, he saw St. Benedict's College as a project. Remember, he was an anthropologist, and he saw St. Benedict's College as a field project, you know, as part of his going forward. And what a project! I mean, it couldn't be more successful than that, you know. So that, but I think is the kind of humility that, you know, he went about to associated with that project, you know. And as Reggie was saying, he saw the poor and the downtrodden, especially in South and Deep South, as his field, and those are the people he wanted to see promoted and so on. And those are the things I remember about
Definitely,
you know.
definitely. And you know, Adrian,
yeah.
it wasn't a question of race. St. Benedict's welcomed everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
In
celebrated.
all the schools did
Oh,
welcome
Well,
everybody.
you see, again, they well some of them, but you know, sometimes if you wasn't Mr. this son or Mr. that son,
You can't make it.
all right, in a certain school, if you wasn't a certain race, you couldn't sing in the Dominic Savio choir. All right.
Of course, you had to pay your way,
Pay
Reggie.
away, all right, you had
And
to
these
pay
people-
away.
these people
Sea
who-
Scouts were for some people.
Oh yeah.
Mango Scouts and Cadets was for other people. You got it?
But based on Dom is a priest,
Yeah.
or in that religious fraternity, so of course he has passion, and more than everybody else to extend a hand to help.
Everybody. You use a very strong word, passion, all right, and humility in helping people. Didn't our Lord and Savior help people? This is what it's all about. Not a question of materialism.
How did the monks in Benedict allow him to do that? Or if he was a monk, right? How
Well,
did they
he
allow
was.
him to get into that?
From what I understand, after talking with him, being a monk, you have to be at the monastery, all right? But there was a shortage of priests in Trinidad. So they used priests who were at the monk to come out in the parishes, and them was sent down south. And that was an opening because he saw where he can develop the community. all for the service of
Met a-
God.
he met- he-
Wherever
he
you
met
are,
a, yeah, he met a community in ruin. Or,
in ruin, a rural
ruin,
community,
Rural community, you know.
agricultural community,
It's
Yes.
all cane and
cane,
Yes,
sugar
yes,
cane,
yes,
farming, and what have
yes.
you, rice.
Yeah.
So what he did, and he saw the need in terms of, as a young monk coming outside in this community, even though he belonged to the monastery, he saw it fit that the work that he can do established here was of great significance, of paramount importance to development of a whole entire society.
In other words, he saw an ideal opportunity to, lend to this community.
Definitely. And as you mentioned, the man was a social anthropologist. He got his PhD in sociology and anthropology. So he saw the need. He was well prepared, well equipped, well tooled to go into an avenue where angels, as I say, fear to tread.
And he felt most comfortable by
definitely.
doing that as well.
And you know, people responded because
Yeah,
of
in a
respect.
positive way,
Definitely.
you know.
In a most positive way, because
yeah.
he was honest, he had integrity, he had faith, he had courage to do what he had to do with such, passion
And humility.
and humility. That's all I can say. You talk about them, you talk about humility.
He went where angels there, right?
Yeah.
He went all the way
All the
through.
way through. All right,
I
but
get it.
absolutely
So,
nothing.
Steve, you know a little now why the Dom chose Point Fortin as one of the areas that he would try to solicit support from in identifying young people, from the community and giving them an opportunity to be something in life,
Definitely.
So that when he went to Point Fortin, it was deliberate. It was of his main doing as well. And I think the more we look back now, we see that, that was such a huge decision of the dump to travel all the way to Point Fortin. And when you think about it, he did these things himself, he didn't ask any, and he journeyed throughout South. And today, there are so many of us, especially from the deep South, who owe so much to the Basil Matthews.
Okay, lots more to come. Sit tight, go to your refrigerator, take a drink. We'll be right back after the short break.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
So welcome back, viewers. As usual, Field of Dreams on Axe Television Network, and we talk football. But today is very special. St. Benedict's 60th anniversary, and we're talking about the old great Dom Basil Matthews. When we left off right where we were talking about Dom production and information and all the stuff that he's done to the community and the schools. Let's pick up where we left off, and I want to know a little bit more about Dom having left Trinidad and went abroad. What caused that?
What caused him to leave Trinidad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, Dom was principal from 1956 to February 1968. And during that time, the school grew. We produced scholars, we produced our own. So we had teachers like myself, former students, myself, Bosco, Riley, Peter Dinging, coming back to the school to teach. It showed that there was some success, and it shows that there was some growth. Even in terms of the physical plant of the school, we had a Pele Hall, we had a St. Austin's, things became better. And we excelled in that time during those years in terms of football, because Dom patterned his school after Notre Dame University and also Georgetown University. Look how Georgetown is doing in basketball.
Exactly.
Catholic schools, the oldest Catholic school in the U.S., Notre Dame and Georgetown, Notre Dame full of football. You hear Notre Dame, you think of football. You hear Georgetown, you think in terms of basketball. There is nothing wrong with that. And so the Concordat was an agreement with the church and government, with the new common entrance people, that the principal has at least 20% of the intake of students as he seems fit. It could be parishioners, children, etc. But Dum, in his own feeling, said, you know, while this 20% might be good, this is my school. I built my school, and rightly so.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
nobody can tell me that
Oh,
I
yeah.
should not take in more than the 20%, or even within that 20%,
Whom
should I take in?
Yes, yes.
And the 20% should not only begin at the first form level, because he saw that there were other people outside of the first form, that age, who needed help.
Needed an opportunity.
Needed
Oh,
an
yeah.
opportunity.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Because, you know, Forbes Burnham said, you can have all the brain you have, and if you don't have that opportunity given to you, you could never make it. So Dum said, this is my school. I don't have to limit myself to the 20% intake of boys at the Form 1 level. I see there are others who need that break. And so he took in several persons. And of course, jealousy, of course, came into being. How come you from St. Benedict's College of Law
Can do it. Yeah.
can do it and excel so well in sports, go to Port of Spain and beat the powerhouses, okay, and continue to do so well, produce national players. At the same time, the marriage of education and being successful. So something had to be wrong somewhere. And so the ministry fell from accounting purposes
yeah.
and administrative purposes. Dum should not do it. Dum went abroad for a little vacation, because that's the first time he went on a vacation as a principal for over 11 years. And this thing came up with the ministry. And it felt that Dum was doing wrong. But in his mind and the other people's mind, he wasn't doing wrong.
yes.
He was helping.
Yes.
All right? And so again, as a priest and as a monk, he took the vow of obedience. Being abroad, he was on vacation, and they said, well, look, this thing is happening. It may be best for you to resign. Again, his priestly conditions says, let me resign. And Dum left here,
That was what year? Did
1968.
68
Had to
resigned.
go to the United States to seek a living, and he did not get help from the church community at that point in time. He had, thank God, as he told me, he had his PhD, and he was able to land a position at Howard University, where Eric Williams taught, and became chair of the Black Studies Department. And he worked there until he came back here in 1976. And of course, he came back, and interestingly, Mutilal Moonan gave him a job.
A job, yes.
Right?
yes.
To be a director of human
his
resources.
company, at his
of his company.
Yeah.
Remember, Dum gave Moonan a break?
Yes.
It
His
is
first
ground
break,
and all the,
yeah.
right? He got his first break, and Moonan said, well, look, we need this man. Priest or no priest, this man can motivate my workers. This man can do things. This man can assist me in a lot of things, and be my right-hand man in terms of consultation and advisement, etc.
But at that time, too, Reggie, Mutilal Moonan had grown into one of the bigger
Big powerhouses with the
in
construction of the
Trinidad and Tobago,
highways.
Yeah, you know,
Definitely.
and he saw the Dum playing a critical role within his organization at that time. You know?
Pivotal role.
Yeah.
You see? And Dum came back here, he didn't stay idle. So what I'm saying is this, the man was forced out of something that he built. Could you imagine?
You can
the
put out
hurt?
their own house.
Yes,
the
oh,
hurt,
yes,
man,
yes,
the
yes.
hurt. I mean, the man lived with me, the hurt that he experienced. And it's something he didn't want to talk about. But sometimes he would ask me to sit down and let's talk. And sometimes tears would come to his eyes. And it hurts me with a passion also to see that, you know, sometimes a prophet is not honored in his own country. And it is sad to see Trinidad sometimes we do not honor our own people. Not only in sports, all right, but we do not sometimes honor our very own people. And Dum was a stalwart, all right? And imagine you built a school and you had to resign from your school from foolishness which could not have been rectified. But thank God for his mercy and his grace that so many of us whom he took in. I didn't pass common entrance. Well, in those days, I didn't pass exhibition. How I ended up at St. Benedict's College. And I went, in 5 years, I was in Form 5 and Form 6 and became a teacher here. It was interesting. And not only
Exhibition was what they used to call what?
exhibition was before the common entrance.
Common entrance, right.
Right. So the thing is this, and I have nothing to be ashamed about. I didn't pass exhibition. I didn't win exhibition because there were only 200 spaces in the country. If you win, you get free scholarship.
Yeah, back in the day, there were spaces.
Right.
Not like now everybody go through the court. Right.
So the whole thing is this.
Yeah.
So could you imagine the hurt And when he left here, he never got he left at 58. He never even got a pension from the Trinidad and Tobago government, for which he was entitled, because you can take optional retirement at 55 and mandatory at 60. Think about it, that you had to go and make a living as a man, fend for himself in America.
At that age, too.
At that age, too, at 58 years old, to start all over again.
You know, Reggie, we would have shared, and I imagine Steve too would have shared the same kind of experiences as you're talking about, and part of this, you know, development in our lives. And as in listening to you, I coming to the fore is the fact that, you know, as you so rightly mentioned, giving people who the opportunities to develop themselves in life, and as you were so right when you said that not only people who would have probably admitted to the school at the first form and so on, but he saw people, young people who needed opportunities, you know, and he gave it to them. And this is, you know, where it comes out most. And I see people like, you know, Bobby Sukram, you know, who would have enjoyed, you know, being a student of the school and his whole development in life and so on. These are some of these people are given that chance, you know. And so many of us. I too did not pass my exams to before going to St. Benedict's College, but that did not limit me. You know, I was given the opportunity as well to go there while I didn't get an exhibition or I wasn't given a scholarship. You know, we paid our dues to, as Reggie was saying, you know, I had to pay a dues, and we did that. But only because it was St. Benedict's College and Don Basil Matthews gave people like myself and I suppose Reggie the opportunity to enjoy that education that, you know, we would not have been able to enjoy otherwise. And I know we haven't gone into football, but that is another area where I think, you know, people saw St. Benedict's College as a football school, Reggie. You know, and they never understood, you know, what was really behind that, the totality of the man himself, you know.
May I interject for a second? Let me give you a little story. In 1961 and 62, I was in Form 6, getting ready to write higher school certificate. That was the days before GC.
Like sixth form?
Yeah, sixth form.
Okay.
Before GC came in, and O-levels and A-levels. And I was studying in San Fernando Library. And fellows from Prez and NAPS used to be there. So I studied among them. So the guy said, Reggie, what you writing 8CN? Before I can tell these fellas I was writing in Latin, Spanish, and history, a man would jump on the board. Football and music. You see the stigma? In other words, that is all Benedict's good for, football and music.
Right.
But you know, God bless me, I showed all of them that I could pass. And Dom hired me. He made me on the board. And some of the same fellas who were writing me came back to beg Dom to get a job at St. Benedict's College.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Exactly.
So if I can make it, anybody can make it, even those students today. And I'm saying, without any apologies, I have no apologies for going to St. Benedict's College. This is my alma mater. This is where I was nurtured. And I gave back to the school even last year. I taught at the school for free in terms of my social responsibility for the school. So I'm saying all this in interjecting that the stigma against St. Benedict's College. But when you go abroad and you see people who have done so well in government, in public life, Dr. Errol Noel, all right, chairman of the civil engineering at Howard University. Raymond Noel from Point and family was just given an award by the OAS Award for his research in AIDS. John Al Young, chairman of statistics in University of Vermont. You understand what I'm saying? It is not only to university life, but people have made a living, a decent living, and we owe it all to St. Benedict's College and its founder, principal, and principal emeritus. So when this thing happened with Basil and the school was taken away from him, could you imagine the hurt? But one thing he said, Reg, you know, sometimes in life you have adversities and you have to know how to overcome them, and it makes you a better person. That's my take on it.
Well, you know, we have to give him credit. He always challenged everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And he always, he sees way ahead of a lot of us.
Yeah.
and so on. So we all have to, give credit to Dom for something in our life, and this whole country, I think, has to do that.
Has benefited.
Has benefited from him.
Yeah.
And may I add, in all his humility, there was a time people talk about national awards. He should get it's now the President's Medal or the Trinity Cross. I was most shocked when he said to me, Reg, boy, I don't want these things. I never patted my life to receive an award. I said, you don't like to feel, people reward you for something? He says, yes, but at the same time, I don't want it. I said, what do you want? He says, I have already received my award.
Right.
I built St. Benedict's, and it's people like you all who do well and who can help others. That's my reward, and that's my award. Now, what more humility can you get?
Having said that, I want us to take this, call this part one of Dumb Basil Matthews, because there's a whole other life with football,
Definitely.
of course.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we're going to make part two of Dumb Basil Matthews. We're going to have a second part, viewers, of Dumb Basil Matthews, what he's done for St. Benedict's College, for South Trinidad, for Trinidad on the whole, and he even was president of Trinidad Football Federation or Football Association. So part two, we would get into all Dumb has done for football down the road, right?
Most definitely.
So let's close out now with what you, Adrian, has to say about Dumb. We give you like a minute or anything to express your passion or whatever he's done for you, and so on and so on, right?
But as I said earlier on, the Dumb, I remember as someone who was genuine, a family person. The Dumb would come to our home sometimes, as I said, and he would talk with my father about a number of things. And he wouldn't talk about football. That was the kind of deep interest he had in the family. He talked about everything else, the development, or the children, And I remember that about the man. Genuine and humble, you understand? And that is what stays with me. And that remind me most about the man, Dumb Basil Matthews.
Right. When did you lose touch with Dom? When he went back to the United States, or when he came back?
Well, when he went to the United States, that was when he lost,
You lost touch with
him, But
I know you guys have spent a lot of time together and good quality time, and you have done a lot with Dom.
Yeah, we would have.
Reggie, what about you?
Well, on a personal note, I live with the Dumb, and the Dumb lived with me. There's a question of sharing.
Right.
When he got old and things were rough with him, sometimes things were very hard, and he always prayed a lot. And he encouraged me to pray a lot too. My children were his grandchildren. As a matter of fact, my son is his God. He's the godfather of my son. When my son was born, Dom came down here. He says, Reg, don't christen him. I said, what? Don't baptize him. So when I came down here Friday night, my mother said, the baptism is in the morning. I said, where is this? He said, Cuba. The Dom arranged. He says, Reggie, I taught you. You taught Monsignor Vento. Monsignor Vento have to baptize your son, Reggie. And part of his name is Stephen after him. Right. So there's a personal connection, but I give God thanks for him and for making me who I am today. And I say it without reservation, without apologies. Dom was my Dom. Amen.
He was your mentor, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, and everything, right?
And not only to me.
To everybody.
To everybody.
Well, viewers, part two would tell you all about Dom in football, because he brought a whole bunch of us from Point Ford and Faizabad, Forest, Palaseco, to St. Benedict's College, and give us an opportunity to get an education. He also gave us an opportunity to become better citizens, better footballers, better everything in life. He showed us how to look ahead, and he showed us everything. I've learned a lot from Dom, I sit now with a master's degree in environmental science and a bachelor's degree in environmental health and safety, and I'm sure I got to credit that to the DUM and for what I have done in football. So again, my gratitude is to the DUM as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If you're hearing me, I really appreciate it so much. Now we have come to the end of the show. I want to thank our viewers. Thank you, viewers, for letting us into your homes and giving us this opportunity. Thank you, Axe Television Network. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Reggie, for being here. Again, you brought me in, you started me, and I can never forget you as well. Thank you so much. Adrian, as a teammate, as a schoolmate, as everything, I want to thank you as well, and I want to thank you for being here on this program.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to bring in some of the footballers and maybe come with you guys the next time.
Will do.
Viewers, don't forget we have a Facebook page, and don't forget we have an email address, fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Go in peace. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Good night.